An American socialist, Joseph Overton, theorized on how to achieve that something which at a given moment was unthinkable that could be approved by the legislation of a country will end up becoming so popular the politicians should approve it, could legislate it. For Overton, it was method, which was precisely called the Overton window. The point was to do it very gradually, with the process of social engineering, through the power influence of the media. Public opinion was slowly changing, so that, regardless of even what the politicians personally believed, they could pass law that previously would have been simply scandalous. Not that the politicians had too much influence, perhaps they did, but Overton argues that in reality there are other forces much more powerful than the politicians, and that they really do have control of the money and the media, which are the ones doing this social engineering, knowing very well where they want to go. Politicians adapt to what is becoming popular because they have the nose to know what they have to say to the votes. I don't know if Overton spent much time in vacation in Spain. Certainly that the theorized is demonstrated with facts. For example, the approval of homosexual marriage, the approval of abortion, or even the legislation of drugs in some countries. But I do not know if the deduce this is a socialist investigating American society, or if, I repeat, he spent some time in vacation in Spain, because in Spain, and surely in other countries, there is a method that is very simple and very effective, and that in practice is the same as Overton theorizes. I am referring to the method used to boil a frog. The frog is put in a container with water at room temperature. The frog is calm. It is in water. It does not move. Then the water in the container is boiled, but very, very, very slow, in such a way that the frog does not realize that the temperature is increasing. It continues there calmly until a moment comes when the frog is already paralyzed. It is cooked and dies. If we apply Overton's method, Overton's window, or the much more obvious or simpler and less philosophical method on how a frog is boiled, to what has been happening in the church, to what has been happening for a long time, and to what has happened in the last few weeks, with the approval of the blessing of irregular couples, including homosexual couples, we realize that we are in the same situation. What some time ago was absolutely unthinkable and scandalous, by raising the temperature little by little, has become acceptable for many practicing Catholics, especially in certain countries. It has become acceptable because that society has been changing with that society engineering and considering through the approval of homosexual marriage, for example, as something natural, normal, even good, that kind of relationship. The approval by the Church of the blessing of homosexual couples with all the nuances you want to introduce, but approval of the blessing of homosexual couples has been an increase in temperature. It is an increase in temperature that it is not or does not seem to be the end of the increase. They are boiling the frog. It is not coincidence, at least it does not seem to me so, that in the midst of this huge mess that has been made, a newly elected bishop, newly appointed, and that it's very significant, the Bishop of Bamberg in Germany, has openly said that the next step is recognition the approval of homosexual relations. And that in this very week, another bishop, the Bishop of Malta, Monsignor Scicluna, an expert in the investigation of pederasty abused by the clergy, he said that we have to go decisively to marry priests. They are showing the way, slowly, slowly. They are preparing the ground. We already have the blessing of homosexual couples. Now the next temperature rise is going to come by the approval of homosexual relationships and by the acceptance of married priests. To reach the end of the first phrase. Not the end, but the end of the first phase. Homosexual married priests. Married priests, some of whom marry to a lady or some marry to a gentleman. And this, which today is unthinkable, unfeasible, seeing the theory of Overton on how to cook a frog, this has already begun to be prepared. However, there is a problem, and a problem has arisen for those who have this intention of gradually preparing the ground, gradually increasing the cooking temperature of the liquid where the frog is. A problem has arisen, and it is that if this way of killing the frog is usually effective, it is not so effective when you have several frogs in the container that come from different places, because it turns out that some of these frogs have different sensitives and perspective more than others, or even others that the temperature is increasing. And then while the rest is calm, this frog realizes it and jumps out of the container and escapes. But in doing so, it alerts the others, or at least some of the others. And this is exactly what has happened this week with the collective rejection by the entire Catholic Church in Africa to the blessing of homosexual couples. It is true that it has been an agreed rejection. The very document made public by the African bishop says so. It is a document agreed by the Vatican, approved by the Holy Father, and also approved by the doctrine of the faith. It is an agreed document, and as very agreed document, it is plausible. One can imagine that both parties have given in. On the other hand, the African bishops flatly to reject the approval, the blessing of homosexual couples, but they say that this is due to their culture. Naturally, they give Cardinal Fernandez an oxygen balloon because that is what he had said. Well, in certain places because of their culture. Although Cardinal Fernandez has not said it, others undoubtedly think it. Because of their background, culture, there still seems homosexuality as something bad. Because of their culture, that still has a long way to go. There, we allow them not to bless homosexual couples, but in the rest, all those who have a more advanced, more modern, more civilized culture, and not this so ancient and backwards. In the rest, we must bless homosexual couples, even if it is as the French and the Americans have approved, even if it is with individual blessing, which one the other hand. In the clarification of the declaration, Cardinal Fernandez himself allows it. What has happened? A frog jumped out of the container and shot away. It is true that, then it is going to be allowed in this matter, a kind of two-spread church. In reality, those who were already doing the blessing of homosexual couples are going to continue doing it. The only thing is that now they say they are doing it legally, but they were already doing it. I am not only referring to Germany or Belgium, Switzerland, Austria, but also to other places as it has been made clear this week. The public case of Parisha in Kentucky, the fact that it does not have to be done inside the church, that it does not have to be done with the liturgical vestments, they are not going to pay any attention. Nobody's going to tell them anything, warn them, or punish them in any way because they do it. Now they consider themselves supported in that, and they considered, I quote again the Bishop of Bamberg in Germany, they consider that it is only a first step. Are we going towards a two-speed church? In this matter, it's already evident. In some places, it can be done. In other places, they are allowed because of their very background culture not to do it. Are we going towards a two-speed church? Also in the acceptance of homosexual relations? In the acceptance of the marriage of priests? Or of homosexual priests? In the acceptance of the diaconate, and later we must not decide ourselves the priesthood, and later the episcopate, and later the female papacy. It is the method of boiling the frog, little by little, not all at once, because the frog jumps. You have to prepare the ground. We will go towards that two-speed church. If so, we will still be able to say that the church is one. The church is one. That is a Catholic in the sense of universal. That is apostolic. In that sense, that is based on the teachings of the apostles. Some will say that it has also ceased to be holy in the sense of sanctificating, and others will say no, that precisely with the approval of all these things, it is more sanctifying than ever. It seems significant to me that also this week it has been known, although unconfirmed, that Monsignor Viganò is preparing, I repeat, the news is unconfirmed, a kind of a schismatic church. Is unconfirmed, but it has already been published that he has been ordained again as bishop and that he is ordaining priests and is preparing to ordain bishops. This is unconfirmed. Well, it is a rumor. It has already been published, but this means that there are many lay people in the church who are dissatisfied and who will even be ready to go to a schism if the temperature of the water where the frog is boiled or where the frog are boiled continues to increase. It is possible that this is exactly what some people want, that there are frogs, laymen, bishops, priests, they jump out of the container, that they leave, that they go to a schism. It is possible that this is what they want and that they are even provocating it. Is possible. I don't know, but obviously it will not be free. They run a risk, and that so many frogs leave the container and that they are practically left without them inside. And in that case, what are they going to live on? Because this is not theory. It is not hypothesis. It is not science fiction. This is exactly what is happening to the Protestant churches, not only internal divisions, precisely with the issue of homosexuals. There are the Anglicans, the Methodists, the Baptists even, but also the numerical crisis is frightening in them much more than in the Catholics. We do not know what is going to happen, and we do not know where they want to direct the church, nor how much they are willing to increase the temperature of the water, thinking that maybe most of the frogs do not realize what is happening. We do not know what can happen, but we do know that it is a very painful situation, at least for some, among whom I include myself. It is a very painful situation. There are many of us, certainly. I am, and I believe I am not the only one who are suffering, who love the church, who love the Pope, who want to be faithful to the Pope, who defend the Pope, who love the church, and yet with this we are suffering, and we are suffering a lot. The only thing left for us at this moment is to express, as long as they let us, what we think and continue praying. Until next week, God willing.